time? What time is it?
6:27.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brenton.
Hi, Brenton. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2018-19 Student Member of the Board of Education debate. My name is Connor Curran, and I'm the class Secretary of Education. I'll be moderating tonight's debate. Before we begin the debate, will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here's how tonight's debate will work. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to speak and to introduce themselves. The order of speakers have been predetermined, be a random drawing prior to the debate. Questions for the candidates have been submitted by CRASC as well as online via our website, aacps.org/CRASC. We will not be taking questions from the audience. The candidates did not have an opportunity to review the questions prior to the debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question with a 30-second rebuttal. There is a timer located on the rear screen of the boardroom. Please be advised that this debate is being broadcasted live on AACPS TV via AACPS's live stream channel. Once all questions have been addressed tonight's debate will be concluded. At this time, we would like everyone to silence their cell phones. Now we'll start with introductions. We'll first start with Coleman Campbell.
Good evening. My name is Coleman Campbell, and I'm a candidate for the student member of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. I'm a junior at Southern High School, where I'm also the president of the Student Government Association. I stay active at school and play several sports, including soccer and tennis, and I'm also the treasurer of the French Club. I also like to be active in the community, and I sing in the Voices and Praise Youth Choir and have volunteered several times in service projects for the less fortunate. I enjoy school, sports, and being a teenager in general, but also get a lot out of being involved. I've been inspired by the resurgence in student activism around women's rights, gun violence, and school safety issues that some people compared to protests during the Vietnam era. This has made me seek out more opportunities for engagement and leadership roles. I would like to have more of a voice, but I would also like to find a way to draw in other and more student voices. When the opportunity to become student member of the board with full voting rights presented itself, it seemed like the ideal way to combine my passion for involvement with my desire to be where real change happens in policy. The chance to be an actual voting member and have significant influence is great. The main issues that I would advocate for as SMOB are school safety, increased attention toward changing demographics and ELL students, student advocacy and involvement, and reducing class size and standardized testing. I would not only like to contribute my voice, but to be the conduit for many other student voices. Thank you.
Now, Josie Rea.
Hi, my name is Josie Rea, and I'm a junior at Severna Park High School. So right now, I'm the current president of CRASC, and my continual involvement within CRASC is really what made me run for this student member of the board position. I have had so much involvement in the community that my passion aligns with not only policy making, but my passion for involvement within the community. So being president, I had the opportunity to be on the School Board Appointment Commission, which I had a practice with full voting rights with fellow adult members. I elected 2 adult board members, which really showed me how my student voice matters in our community and how CRASC, our involvement with CRASC, can really expand the student voice. So with my continual involvement within CRASC has shown me that my voice matters, and my passion to teach other students that their voice also matters is what really makes me want to be a student member of the board. I realize that our community is very diverse and that we have a lot of pressing issues right now, being gun violence, mental health, school safety, and there's a lot of discussion on senior schedules. So my position is that I want to not only advocate for more funding within those programs, because I feel like mental health is a very pressing issue, and if we fund it more, it will really help alleviate a lot of stresses within our community. Not only that, but there's a lot of equity problems within our community, and I see it every day, whether it be at CRASC, where I'm teaching students how to empower themselves, or different involvements within my school. I feel like we need to tackle our issues head on. Anne Arundel County is very diverse. We need to realize that, and we need to tackle each school separately. Our schools collaboratively are very diverse, and each of their issues are different. So as student member of the board, I really not only want to empower students, but I want to tackle our equity issues within our community. Thank you.
Now we'll go on to Emily Kissinger.
Good evening. My name is Emily Kissinger, and I'm a junior at Southern High School. I am beyond excited to be here today as a finalist or student member of the board. For the majority of my life, one of my passions is serving others. I have always been involved in school activities like field hockey, tennis, and swimming, and also in SGA. And this year, I got the amazing opportunity to be Southern High School's SGA treasurer. As a major part of my role in SGA is that I listen to the students and bring back what they say to the administrators. This year, a number of students approached me wanting to have a spring pep rally. I listened to them and took this to admin. Sadly, it was turned down due to the quarterly schedule, but the students still felt represented. My whole life, I have lived in Anne Arundel County, and it is one of the best counties because of its uniqueness. As our county grows, we have become more diverse. I have seen this change in my school with the Latino community. As the community has grown, so has our Spanish club. To the students, the Spanish club is a space where they can speak their own language and feel welcome and comfortable. One of the main things I want to do as student member of the board is make sure that all students, no matter their race, gender, culture, or language spoken, is welcome in any school in Anne Arundel County. That these students have a place to meet people like them, or participate in clubs and activities that make them feel welcome in their community. As this happens, then schools can feel safe for those students and other students. We don't want any student to feel like they are unwelcome or not safe in schools. The more welcome and safe they feel, the more they'll want to participate in other school activities, help keep their grades up, and want to come to school more. I want us all to realize that all means all. This means that all students, no matter what, are included and welcomed. To do this, I want to help the Be Nice campaign grow so it can help support All Means All, and that students of different backgrounds can work together to come up with great projects and ideas for the school and community. As a person, I am not always perfect. I do not always experience and feel the things that everyone feels. This means that as a student member of the board, I would love to hear from students and teachers to see what they see and feel in their schools. I would not be at every school, and not every school is the same. In Anne Arundel County, they're all very unique. That is why this position isn't just one person and one voice. It's one person with many different voices that all need to be heard. Thank you.
At this time, we'll begin with questions. School safety has become a hotly debated issue. What changes would you advocate to be done in Anne Arundel County to increase school safety?
Definitely, I know that the board just decided to have the double doors in all Anne Arundel County public schools. They already have 3, and they'll finish the rest by this year or the end of this or beginning of next year. And definitely make sure that all students can feel safe by having good security and more police officers around, or more protective measures, so that no one can easily get into the building that is not a student or that could be a harm to any student.
Josie?
I also agree. I know that a lot of schools right now are doing the double door section, and there's a lot of new construction going on to implement the double door safety security measure. And I know a lot of schools also have the buzzer, where you have to show your face, everything. So I also support that. I know a lot of schools do not have that, and that is a very important security measure that we need to take in order to place that. And one thing that I believe is that school safety begins in the school classroom, and by having better mental health facilities and resources available to students, they will feel more safe, because it all starts within the classroom where students feel safe. If they have relationship with their students, their peers, their teachers, and their fellow counselors, that's how you create a better school safety environment. So not only is it the outward measures, but it's also the inward measures that we need to look at. And each school is diverse. So each school, we have to look at it, their school safety differently.
Coleman?
So, like Josie and Emily said, I fully support the implementation of double entryways and new door locks in all schools in Anne Arundel County. And I also support the idea of tinted windows, one-way glass that people can't see inside the school, but we can see outside of the school. And also, like Josie said, I think we need to focus on what's inside of schools as well as what's outside of schools. And that would entail taking warning signs of threats, bullying, and social exclusion very seriously, and implement early intervention and prevention of potential issues. In middle school, I was a peer mediator, and I think that some program like that throughout high school would be helpful. Peer mediation, peer counseling, as well as mental health awareness with guest speakers and other programs like that. And also parent awareness, so that they can recognize warning signs in their children.
Next question. How can AACPS go about assisting with the mental health?
Connor, don't we get a rebuttal?
Oh, yes. Okay. Would you like a rebuttal?
Emily, I thought you wanted to first. No. Okay, I would like a rebuttal.
Okay.
I also think that this new Be Nice campaign, as Emily said, is really important. I know Dr. Arlotto and Ms. Jackson have been trying to implement it for the past couple years, but it's now just coming back up because they believe, and so do I support, that the Be Nice campaign is where you create the safe environment in the school, because students need to feel welcome, and if they see that another peer through their relationships is something is going on with them or something is wrong, they need to be able to report it to a nice and trustworthy adult. So I also support that.
Is there any more rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Okay.
So I recognize that the Board of Education does not have power over gun violence, because if we're being honest, that's the real issue behind school safety, whether it's preventable or not. But the student member of the board does have a voice, and they do have an influence that could extend beyond the jurisdiction of the board and inspire other students to take action on issues such as gun violence and school safety that may not affect school legislation directly.
Any more rebuttal? Okay, next question. How can AACPS go about assisting the mental health crisis facing our community? Coleman would be answering first.
Okay, so like I said in the previous question, mental health is a huge issue right now in our schools and a big driving factor behind school violence, in my opinion. So I think campaigns to let students be aware of mental health issues, as well as guest speakers and assemblies like we are already doing, but we could increase the number and the quantity of these type of assemblies and programs in our schools. And also in health classes, we learn about suicide prevention, but a lot of students don't take it seriously. And I think that some kind of a way to motivate students to get involved with mental health would be beneficial.
Emily?
Definitely, like Coleman said, have ways like speakers and stuff. And I know our school has advisory, and having advisory lessons and having kids realize and teachers see what the signs actually are of it, also along with parents. And I know they have a lot of nights throughout the county at like middle schools and at the libraries that kind of show that the signs of possible shootings and stuff. So maybe bring that back, like bring those speakers into our school to show us what to look for in a student, a fellow student, or a teacher can look for in anyone, so we can all prevent this and be safe.
Josie?
I know a lot of it, again, goes back to the Be Nice campaign. Mental health in our schools, a lot of it is related to ongoing lack of parent involvement, lack of relationships in school, lack of connection that they find within the schools. And the way that we have these students feel like they belong is with having the Be Nice campaign. And not only that, but a lot of it is that our schools, not that they lack diversity, but they are taught to be tolerant of diversity. And I know a lot of my advocacy through CRASC has been that we need to embrace and change that word from tolerance, which is embedded into our curriculum, but change it into celebration of our differences. Because when we celebrate our differences, we realize that we appreciate each other and we're each unique. And then it takes away from the student feeling almost left out because of certain indifferences within each other. So once we learn that we each need to celebrate our differences, I feel like that can create a safer learning environment for the students and then help with mental health facilities.
Any rebuttal? Next question. If you had to cut an area of the budget to fund a full step pay increase for teachers, in what areas would you cut funding? Yes.
So I know that there, over the last couple of years, has been a huge expenditure of money given to textbooks. And I feel like, although this is very necessary for some schools and some teachers need the textbooks, I feel like continuing this budget, we can take away from it a couple years and take that large portion and divide it between different places, such as teacher salaries.
Coleman?
I agree with Josie. Personally, I would say half of the textbooks that I receive at the beginning of the year, the next time that I open them up is at the end of the year to return them. So I do agree that we could take away some funding from that, and I think we could also take away some funding regarding the testing process. In schools, students are bombarded with testing, and each test entails its own extensive preparation process that I would imagine, and I'm not positive, but I would imagine that there is funding toward those processes, and I think that we could reduce some of that funding to go to teacher salaries.
Emily?
I agree with Coleman about the standardized testing, because now that they've switched to quarterlies, it's caused more tests to be created, which, like Coleman said, puts a lot of work in there. So a lot of that money could go back to the teachers. And also, like Josie said, with the textbooks, some of the textbooks are out of date, but they also can be, they also are still usable. Sometimes, like history textbooks are still usable, in math, definitely, but I think taking it out of more standardized testings would be better, because switching up from quarterlies and or to 2 tests a year is a lot of money from going from 2 to 4.
Is there any rebuttal?
Yes, I have one. I feel like when you compare the 2018 fiscal year budget to the proposed 2019 one, you see a lot of cuts to programs such as the Title I and Title II. There's a lot of stagnation between them. There's over a $1 million cut to the Title I schools grants, and there's also a cut in the pre-K and Head Start programs, which I think are very vital to our community. They help students, and I feel like we shouldn't be cutting money from them to give to places. We should be cutting from other places, such as, like I said, the textbooks, or there's a lot of studies with technology that we could do.
Any more rebuttal? Next question. What do you consider the biggest issue facing AACPS? Emily will be starting.
I definitely think the Be Nice campaign and the amount of kids who don't feel like they're welcomed in in AACPS is definitely a big issue we have. It causes kids to not come to school. It causes it's hard for teachers to try to get them to catch up, and it's also hard for them to keep their grades up and succeed. It's due to some kids bullied, or some kids from different cultures not understanding the language or understanding how it works in the school. So having more safe spaces and more things that could help them get through the day and make them feel like they're part of the community would definitely benefit.
Josie?
So I would say that Anne Arundel County is so diverse that it is hard to say that one problem right now describes our community. But one hot topic right now throughout the country, obviously, is gun violence and school safety. And I know Dr. Arlotto has done massive amounts, and so has the board, to ensure that students feel safe. But I feel like, again, it all goes down to mental health and the teaching of tolerance embedded into our curriculum. I've had a lot of talks with Dr. Arlotto about this, and he says that tolerance is embedded into our curriculum so that we can feel in our community that we all are diverse, because we are. But I feel like we need to, again, have, instead of tolerance embedded, we need to have an appreciation and celebration. And I think another topic that's really going to become popular next year, as I talked with Dr. Arlotto at the Teen Advisory, was he was talking about seniors and their class sizes or class graduation requirements, and then they're also talking about the grading policy being changed for next year. So that's different.
Coleman?
I believe, as the other candidates have said, that one of our biggest issues is acceptance and tolerance in schools. And in elementary school, we had a very large focus on that. I even wrote a poem called Tolerance, Respect, and Acceptance. And it said everybody should be kind, everybody should be true, nobody should be threatening or making fun of you. And I wrote that in 4th grade, but I feel like there are not similar programs in high school. So most schools have advisory, and I haven't had an advisory lesson in a couple months now. So if we implement more advisory programs that include awareness and tolerance and diversity, information about diversity in our schools, in our county, and in our country, that would be a great solution to this problem.
Do we have any rebuttal?
Yes, I actually do. I know I have a lot of rebuttals, but I think this is very personal to me, and I know Krask, again, has advocated for it numerous amounts of time that we, and I as student member would advocate for it, that we need to help our students' mental health resources. We need to expand them. We need to give guidance counselors the opportunity to have those one-on-one relationships with each student rather than having them have 500 kids and be overwhelmed. That's been a continuous complaint, and we have not seen any difference. So I really, really would push for that.
All right, do we have any more rebuttal? Okay.
I like how Josie said the tolerance. We shouldn't have just tolerance. You should have people embracing cultures or accepting it. And I definitely agree with that. And I think that at most schools, kids who get in trouble for not saying, not racial, but inappropriate things to other students, they kind of sometimes just get slapped on the wrist and don't get punishment. So I feel like maybe in putting in place more ways that they could get in trouble if they don't embrace other people and they're just not even tolerant of them.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Okay. Next question. Do you support universal pre-kindergarten? Coleman, you'll be starting.
I do support universal pre-K. I think that it's a great way to prepare students for elementary school and for secondary school as well. And I believe that cutting funding from that would not be a good idea for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Student development, child development begins at a very young age, and a universal pre-K program would help to foster that development.
Emily?
I definitely agree that it is very important to have pre-K because, like Coleman said, it's good for kids to have that development, and it's also good for them to learn those social skills very early so they don't go into school as kindergartners not realizing how to interact with people or not realizing how like a school day would work. So they don't go in going from their home where they just kind of get to take naps and like sit there to a school where you have a schedule and you have to do homework. Well, I guess not homework, but you have to do like activities lined up for you. So it's more a way for them to get structured into understanding how school works and to learn the basics before they go into kindergarten.
Josie?
I 100% support universal pre-K, and this again is what appalls me, that we have between the fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019, there's over a $600,000 cut to the Head Start and pre-K budget, and because it is proven that kids that do not have the significant pre-K teaching not only do worse in school, but do not have those same interactions as Emily said. They aren't able to establish those relationships. And I think this is affect our community, because even when I served on the school board appointment commission, that is what we looked for in student members of the board, or excuse me, not student members, future board members. We looked for them supporting pre-K funding and supporting these initiatives to give students before kindergarten that opportunity to get a head start and learn basics.
Any rebuttal? All right, next question. Do you support the issue of tracking or funneling students into a field of study such as a STEM, CAT North or South, or AP courses? Josie, you'll be starting.
Can we have a clarification?
Or
can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Do you support the issue of tracking or funneling students into a field of study such as STEM, CAT North or South, or AP courses?
Well, I definitely would. I support students taking programs such as that given in our schools, because it's a great opportunity that our schools even have STEM, BEMA, all these different magnet and charter schools as well, because it's a way for them to get that experience in high school, which is why I support funding for CAT South, CAT North, vocational schools, all those charter and STEM programs in our schools, because that's what creates a diverse and a unique Anne Arundel County, because we have partnered with different partners in our community, such as the the Chamber of Commerce. I know they do a lot of help with our schools as well with those. And by giving those students the experience to take AP classes, STEM classes, and different magnet programs and stuff, it really exposes them to future career paths or future college classes.
Coleman?
I agree. I fully support STEM and magnet programs, and we have very good ones in this county, Anne Arundel County, as well as charter schools like the Monarch Academy. But I don't think that students should be funneled into these programs, because I think students do the best when they have a free choice and when they feel like they're doing things at their own will. So I fully support the STEM and magnet programs. However, I believe that students should not be influenced one way or another, and they should be able to choose what path they want to take.
Emily?
I agree with what Coleman said about that students should have the choice. They shouldn't be funneled, and not everyone is a person who's going to college, so they don't all. So that's why CAT South is such a big, and CAT North are such a big program for students, especially down more in Southern Maryland. Not everyone's really want to go to school, but that gives them an opportunity to go do what they like. Some kids like to take AP classes and they feel like they push themselves and want to get ready for college, and that's not for all kids. So I feel like that's good. I don't feel like they should be funneled into a way. I feel like if you want to take the STEM or IB or AP, that's up to you and your family, because that's what you feel that you could take. You should not be forced or funneled into taking it.
Any rebuttal?
Yes, I just want to clarify. I do not support funneling. I support, as my fellow two candidates said, the opportunity. That's what I was focusing on. But I also do support the expansion of these programs, because I know that at a lot of charter and magnet schools, there's a lot of waiting on the list, and there's been a lot of talk in the community about expanding the opportunities and seats in each classroom. So.
Any more rebuttal?
I have also heard that around the country and in our state, charter schools are closing down, and I don't think that that's a good thing. I think that we do need to focus on these schools more and put more attention to the schools to ensure that they don't get shut down, because I think they are very beneficial to certain students.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Okay. Next question. Explain the role of politics in the work of the AACPS Board of Education.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Explain the role of politics in the work of the AACPS Board of Education.
Okay. They definitely use it. I feel like it's probably used when you want to try to push something, and it's not just for Anne Arundel County. You want to push it for the whole state, and you feel like it's something that may be safety or maybe more diverse. You want to make sure the state also feels that they should have it, so you would want to work with the politicians, and you'd want to see what they feel that that they in the State House would do, or how it would affect everyone, and how you could work with politicians to see how you could get your point across.
Josie?
So I know, to be blunt, there's been a lot of politics issues on the board recently with pushing their own public agendas and stuff, but as a board member, you have to realize that you represent everyone in Anne Arundel County. You don't represent just the students or just the teachers. You represent everybody, and your political agenda needs to be put aside because the welfare of the community goes above whether you're Democrat or Republican. You need to build consensus, and you don't build that by bringing in your own political agenda.
Coleman?
Many issues that are brought to the board, they may not be political in nature, but every different Republicans and Democrats will have different opinions on them in the community, and a student member of the board or any member of the board must take in consideration from all of those different viewpoints, different political viewpoints, and incorporate or take a bipartisan stance on issues in order to be able to receive advice from people from different political backgrounds.
Any rebuttal?
I agree with what Coleman said, that you shouldn't, no matter what your political view is, just decide if someone comes up to you with something that agrees with your party. You shouldn't just think about yourself. Like Josie said, we're here to represent everyone, not just you and your political party or what you feel is correct. You have to think about everyone else and how they would feel about it and how they would be affected, not just what you think. And you should definitely not just always stick with the one person or the few people that keep pushing it towards you. You want to make sure you listen to everyone and what they have to say.
Any more rebuttal? Okay, next question. How do you believe AACPS can enhance its systems of career readiness? Coleman, you'll be starting.
AACPS has systems for career readiness. There's different programs, Jumpstart programs, programs at Anne Arundel Community College, as well as the CAT South and CAT North programs. Turning attention to those programs, especially the ones that may be lacking, would be vital to the success of those career readiness programs, as well as more funding toward them if it seems they need more funding. And also making sure that students who don't want to go to college do know that there are options for career readiness in college as opposed to college readiness. Career readiness in high school, sorry.
Emily?
I agree with what Coleman said, that students who are not just are for career ready and not going to college should feel that they aren't pressured into acting like they should be preparing for college. And then definitely, I know at our school we have an internship program. One guy who comes in on 8 days only, and not a lot of people knew about him. I didn't know about him until I talked to one of my teachers, and it's very helpful because that helps you get ready to see if that's the job and the kind of community you want to go to school for and pay all that money for. So I think pushing more internships definitely would help, and also pushing more classes at AACC, or just for people to go out in the community and see how they can help and see if they like the job they want to do.
Josie?
So I actually had the opportunity this past December to go with Dr. Arlotto to a breakfast to talk with our different community partners and try to maintain their investments and recruit more, and just tell them how their investments within our community, whether it be technology, internships, speakers, or just different opportunities that they provide our school system, really have an impact. So I think by having and recruiting more investors into our school system to expose students to different STEM, BEMA, different opportunities for their future is really important. And I know Dr. Arlotto also worked with the board to set up a testing college and career center it started at Severna Park High School. And that's to show students that there's different college and career opportunities. And I know he wants to expand that to different schools as well. So I support both of those. And I think it's important that we do provide students different career readiness through CAT South and CAT North.
Any rebuttal?
I'm a part of the design class at Southern, and I know we have a lot of people come in, guest speakers who are in working force. We just had an architect come in. So it shows us the different jobs. So I feel like maybe having more guest speakers come in for jobs and more guest speakers who went straight into college or straight to just work, to show kids like this is what you should be taking steps towards, not just like one teacher who didn't take the steps, seeing professionals who did this and who can help get you into your field.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Okay.
At Southern, I know we have pizza with professionals and other events like that where people from different careers will come in, and they can be careers that require a college degree or ones that don't. But I think that these events need to be more widespread among the county, as well as more advertised in our schools so that students want to attend them and can get this vital information.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Next question. How do you feel about charter schools? Josie, you'll be starting.
I am a high supporter or big supporter of charter schools. I think they give students a great opportunity to explore things that aren't offered at our typical schools in Anne Arundel County. And as Coleman said, I know that a lot of them have been shutting down, but I think we need to continue to support them and to provide more funding for those opportunities for students, because it provides them a smaller class size and different style of learning, I know. So,
Coleman?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of charter schools are being threatened to close down. I'm not sure if that is extended into our charter schools in Anne Arundel County, but if it hasn't yet, it will soon. So we definitely need to address that threat to these schools. Charter schools provide more individualized learning for the students that need it and or want it, and they also provide flexibility in how students can learn, because every student is a different type of learner. Personally, I'm more of an auditory learner, but there are many different types, and I believe that charter schools help students who are all different types of learning because of the lower class size and the more attention paid to each student individually.
Emily?
I definitely agree that they're very important. I know that, like Coleman said, the small class sizes and Josie, they help people learn who have learning issues or just like to have more interaction with the teachers. It also helps them to have a wider variety of classes and different interests other than what the normal schools have, because they can focus more on one thing than having a bunch of different students who are all doing multiple things. They could focus more on one thing than the other in certain classes, and definitely it could be and it could also help prepare you for college better. And it could be, for some kids, they can't afford private school. It could kind of be like a version of a private school for them, or it could help them in the long run and help them get ready for college.
Any rebuttal? Next question. How do you define success when you are evaluating the school system? How do you define success when evaluating the school system? Emily?
I definitely value success when it's not the test scores. It's definitely when you can go into a classroom and see all the students looking up at the teachers and see them paying attention and want to be there and want to learn. It's not how high they score in a test. It's not how high the standards are for tests. It's that the teachers have done their job and they've been there to nourish them and grow them as students, push them and make sure that they can get, and they give their best and they work their hardest and they want to be there. They want to be a part of that school and that community, and that no matter what, they're going to come to school and that they're going to try their hardest. Even if they don't understand, they're not going to give up.
Josie?
I define success in Anne Arundel County as when a student realizes that they are a global citizen and that they are able to think past themselves and just their county. Because I know one thing Dr. Arlotto is also talking about is requiring more hours for graduating seniors with their community service, because Anne Arundel County has one of the lowest in Maryland, and I am a huge supporter of that, because once students realize that they can actually make an impact on another person's life and find that, whether it to be a hobby or a passion of theirs, that's when they become a global citizen. That they realize that it is more than just about them, it is more than just about their future, and that they are able to be a contributing citizen to society and make a difference. So I think that's what makes a successful person in Anne Arundel County.
Coleman?
I believe success in our county and in our schools can be defined by student attitude. If our students are happy, they're going to be more involved in school, and we're going to have more participation in a wide range of school activities, including extracurriculars, sports clubs, and also academics. But going back to student involvement, I think that we need to encourage student involvement and make students more aware of opportunities to get involved in our county, because every student has an opinion and every student has a voice. But if they don't know a vessel, or they don't have the opportunity to exercise that opinion and exercise that voice, it gets lost and it gets silenced. So if we make students more aware of CRASC and other leadership opportunities, that will increase the success, which, like I said, is defined by student attitude and student involvement.
Any rebuttal?
I feel like this comes back around to the Be Nice campaign, like Coleman said, a place where you're happy and you feel welcome in the environment is the reason you're going to succeed as a student and the school can succeed. Having more safe spaces for students or more counselors or more ways that students can talk to people or talk to people of different languages or talk with people who are going through the same thing as them to make sure they feel welcome and happy would definitely make sure that they are successful themselves and that can help greater the school's success.
Any more rebuttal?
I think internally, success in Anne Arundel County is not achieved right now because there are still equity problems within our county, and they're very apparent. There's a lot of disability and accommodations for disabled people at schools. A lot of schools, they don't accommodate for those types of people, and I feel like we really need to because, as Coleman said, once you give the vessel for students to become involved, and I feel like a lot of students are forgotten in Anne Arundel County for their involvement. So I think we need to expand it for that.
Any more rebuttal?
Yeah. So when we define success, we can't forget academic achievement. It may seem like the obvious way to define success, but it is a fundamental part of defining success. And I think in schools there are 3 levels of students: the low achieving students, extremely high achieving students who are internally motivated, and then there's students who are in a middle group. And I believe if we increase incentives for those students in the middle group to surpass the threshold and join the high achieving students, success will be augmented.
Next question. Considering recent national events, student activism has been on the rise. How do you think AACPS should go about supporting this movement? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
AACPS should support the movement of student advocacy. However, AACPS does need to represent all perspectives and all opinions of students, so we must make sure that we aren't biased toward one side of current issues facing the country. But if we do encourage students to use their voice and to advocate for students and for issues involving students, that AACPS should do that while remaining neutral, like I said.
Emily?
I definitely feel like they should stay neutral, back to like what we said about politics. They should see both sides. They shouldn't push for students to do one side over the other. Definitely, I know when they had the walkout for the gun violence, the schools are very well prepared and very opening on letting the students have their voice. And definitely, like Coleman said, they should push to let students have their voice and speak their mind so they could show, and they are the future. We are the future, and we need to say what we want, and we need to push for what we want, because if not, there will not be change.
Josie?
Frankly, when I spoke to a lot of students around the county on what their thoughts were on the walkout, a lot of them thought that Anne Arundel County took the wrong approach. That instead of trying to control the students' actions through this walkout per se, they should have let the students not walk out, but pursue a different avenue. Because a lot of the schools were trying to control the students' voices way too much. And I feel like Anne Arundel County should, as my candidate said, remain neutral, but take a position almost like Crass did, where we said we support student activism within our community. So by empowering students and realizing that they can take different avenues, such as making 17 new friends or promoting this Be Nice campaign, you can take a more proactive approach rather than trying to control the student voice. Thank you.
Do we have any rebuttal? All right, next question. On a regular basis, you will hear about questions and concerns about individual school issues, teachers, and administrators. How you go about following up and seeing these issues addressed. Josie will be answering first.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes. On a regular basis, you'll hear questions and concerns about individual school issues, teachers, and administrators. How will you go about following up and seeing these issues addressed?
Well, as the student member of the board, if I'm elected, I definitely plan on visiting schools very often and holding town halls and meetings where throughout the county, so that different parents, teachers, and students can come and talk to me about their school issues. But I do have to remember that although there's individual needs, that I do have to collectively represent the whole Anne Arundel County. So I know that our schools are very diverse. I've gotten to know our schools very well through my activism within CRASC, but I do have to remember that it's the big picture that we're looking at, and that equity is not achieved yet in all of Anne Arundel County. So I have to keep that in mind.
Coleman.
As student member of the board, I would ensure that I would visit all schools, administrators, counselors, and also SGAs. I think that consulting students that are in leadership roles in each school, like SGA and class officers, I think they would be able to provide me the best information about what that school needs in terms of in a social and student lens. Administrators would obviously know more about funding for schools and what programs need more attention. But I do believe that the student member must make it so that all schools are equal, and to do so, I would have to always be open to opinions from people from around the county and take all those opinions into forming my opinions on policies.
Emily.
Like I said earlier, I really feel that as student member of the board, you are one person with multiple voices, and those multiple voices definitely should be heard. And like my other candidate said, I would go out to the schools and make sure that these things that have gotten passed are continued, and make sure that they feel comfortable, and if they feel like there's something that really needs to change, we can take a look at it. That no one school is above the other. We all should be neutral. It should be neutral, that you agree, and that you should look at everyone and what they all need, and then decide what is better for the whole of the schools, not just what is better for one school over the other.
Is there any rebuttal?
I agree that all of our schools need to achieve this equal threshold, but all of the schools in our county are so diverse that each of them needs different resources to achieve that threshold. And I think that's what a lot of students don't understand, is that one school needs this thing, another school needs that thing. So when people come to board members with different individual needs, they have to realize that each school is different, and that one solution can solve a problem at one school, but not at that other school. So they're really individual, and we have to look at the holistic picture.
Any more rebuttal?
I agree with what Josie's saying, that you can't just expect to go and think that your school, the one thing you need, is going to be done. Like Josie said, everything, if one thing could really help one school but could really affect the other, then it's most likely not going to happen, because we have to look at the broad view of everything to say, well, if we help this one school and this other school's hurt, that's not really fair, and that wouldn't be really representing all the schools and all the students as a whole.
Any more rebuttal?
So individual problems with schools, as they have said, the board, if they made a universal policy, it might solve a problem at one school but create a problem at another school. So instead of making a board policy, the board and the student member of the board could encourage school administrations and school leaders to implement programs specific to that school.
Next question. What is one challenge as a leader you have overcome that prepares you for this position? Emily.
I definitely know, like, this year as an SGA, we lost our advisor, and it was definitely hard for us to try to get new advisors and try to help the students and push forward and try to get the things that we've promised. I know we worked with an administrator to try to get things through, but she as a administrator was quite busy, so it was quite hard. And I took my leadership, and I made sure that I would listen to the students and push my hardest by emailing and staying in contact and making sure that what they really, really wanted was pushed for them, and try to make it happen as much as possible.
Josie.
That's actually funny, because this current year we also lost our old advisor. She retired and moved to Vermont, and I would definitely say that wasn't a challenge, but it really exposed me to myself as a leader. It really showed me who I was. I had to take Krask, and all of our seniors that were really great and well known left. So it really made me internalize myself and realize who I am as a leader. And I would definitely say it's grown my advocacy skills, grown my passion for student activism and inspiring others in my community. And it really has grown me into becoming this position almost.
Coleman.
In the past, I've been in several different leadership roles, including SGA president. This year, like Emily said, we lost our advisor. But aside from that, I've noticed that when students are in leadership roles, they're sometimes trumped by the adults that are the advisors. So our SGA situation was unique, but let's say we did have an advisor, it's usually difficult for a student leader, even if they're the president or the highest position, to actually get anything passed or to have their own full, unchanged, and unaltered opinion by adults. But a student member of the board position with full voting rights is equal to the adults on the board, and that's what really appealed to me about the position, because I wanted to be a genuine leader with my own opinion and my own way to change policy.
And your rebuttal?
When we first lost our advisor, I realized that I had to think about how I am as a leader, and I realized that I know when I should take on a big role and when I should let it go or should ask for help. And definitely when I heard about the student member of the board, I realized that was one thing that I really would love to do and I could totally handle, and I would love to help all the students.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
I would definitely say, as a leader in CRASC, that realizing that it takes a collective group of voices to enact change in our community is one great thing that you need to understand as this position is. Although we have the full voting right, it does take consensus and voting collaboratively on one single thing to get it passed. So I think understanding how not only the inner workings of the board go, but how to collaborate with diverse people, as I've learned in CRASC, is really prominent.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Okay, next question. What is one challenge as a leader you have overcome? Oh, no, sorry. I'm sorry. What life experience do you think best prepared you for this position, and why?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. What life experience do you think best prepared you for this position, and why? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
So this isn't necessarily a specific experience, but both of my parents are immigrants, and from a very young age, they instilled empathy in me and the ability to recognize the needs of others and put myself into other people's shoes. And I believe that would be a good quality for me as student member of the board, because I would care about students involving any issues, care about student issues involving any student from any background, any ethnicity, and I would be able to put myself, make that my own problem, and work hard to fix that problem. So I believe that my parents' background and the qualities that they have instilled in me throughout my life has prepared me for this position.
Emily?
I definitely think my parents also had a great role. They realized that I really enjoyed serving others, so they didn't force me to always play sports. They let me do Girl Scouts and other activities that would help the community. I volunteered at Captain Salem Avery Museum in Shadyside that helped me help people out and helped the community out. So I've always thought, and throughout my middle school and through high school, I've loved to volunteer and I love to participate in community activities. I always like to take the leadership role because I know I would love to get it done, and I like to get it done, and I like to help out the community. And I really feel that just my whole life, and my parents help also with the way that I see people, like Coleman said, like the way my parents have taught me to look at people and see that it's not just who they are as a person from the outside, but think about what they're feeling on the inside.
Josie?
So my dad is in the military, and I've moved around about 9 times in my life, been into 9 different school systems. So the ability for me to realize that it is outside of my decisions, like the fact that I can think outside of myself and realize that it takes a whole group to change something. I've seen a lot of different policies enacted in school systems, a lot of different approaches to different school system issues, and I really think my diverse background with that would really be an asset to the board. As long as, along with me representing a largely underrepresented group of Latino leaders in the board.
Do we have any rebuttal?
Last summer, I was a part of the Appalachian Service Project, which was a service project sponsored by my church, where I went to a low-income community in Virginia, actually the lowest income community in the entire state of Virginia, and I was able to interact with kids from a completely different socioeconomic background than me, and I actually formed very good friendships with them. So I feel like that that experience prepared me to form friendships with all students in AACPS.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
I also had the opportunity to serve on the school board appointment commission and actually appoint and vote for 2 adult board members. So I really think that exposed me to what this full voting right actually feels like and has the ability to do. The fact that me as a student, the first ever student to appoint 2 adult board members, was not only really significant to me, but I know it really shows students that they can have a full vote and a full voice.
Do we have any more rebuttal? Okay. Next question. What is the difference between power and influence, and if elected, which one will you use? We'll be starting with Josie.
So the student board member has power through their full voting right. The biggest student-led organization is CRASC in Anne Arundel County, and they're the main influencers on policy because they represent collectively the student voice. But the student member not only is a gateway for student voice, but they also represent everyone in Anne Arundel County. So their full voting right is what has the power.
Coleman.
Recently, we've seen with the victims of the Parkland shooting what students can do, and those students don't necessarily have any power. They don't have any power over legislation or physically changing laws. Yet they've made world news day in and day out. So I believe that the student member of the board could have a similar impact with their influence over all issues involving AACPS, because the student member can't have legislation passed to solve every issue, but they can use their influence to attempt to solve those issues.
Emily?
Definitely the power is the full voting right that they have. That's the power that's equal to the adults. But the influence is definitely how they use that power and how they make connections with the adults on the boards, and that even if they don't get it passed, they've influenced others to agree with them or agree with what they believe, and also going out to the other schools and talking with teachers and other students helps their influence, because the students now feel like they have someone that represents them, and their influence can help create another leader that could be a great student member of the board, and it could also help them, like Coleman said, help them on the board themselves.
Do we have any rebuttal? Okay, next question. Describe your communication style. Emily.
I really do like emailing. I really like to communicate with people via email. I feel like it's very informative, but I also like to talk. I like to talk to people. I like to look them in the face and tell them that this is what I feel like what should happen. This is what I want to happen. I want them to see my face physically and understand, because not always in an email or a text, you don't always understand what they're trying to say or how they're saying it. So I feel like saying something, I love to talk to people right to their face and be like, this is what I feel, and in the tone I feel like it should be talked in. And so they don't get any, they don't interpret anything wrong about what I'm saying or anything other than what I am saying to them.
Josie.
I would say I'm an analyzer. So I like to take situations and I like to hear every single aspect of them, understand the broader picture, and then look at it, analyze it, and then come up with either my solution or my answer, which I think would be a really big asset to the board, because our community is very diverse, and understanding the different problems or different issues at each school system, and then realizing how I can come up with a solution or work with the board to come up with a policy to help those schools would really be an asset.
Coleman.
For communication, I definitely prefer face-to-face interaction. And I also feel like I like to create a friendship-level relationship with people. I feel like the most progress is made in communication when I have, like I said, a friendship-type relationship with whoever I'm communicating with. But also, as everybody knows, social media plays a huge role in the lives of students these days, and I believe that the student member of the board could utilize social media, like Twitter polls, and Instagram also has polls now, to gain a consensus, because when I'm communicating with people, I like to gain a consensus from all sides and address all sides of an issue.
Do we have any rebuttal?
I think it's really important, as I said also, is to visit each school so that you can have that one-on-one interaction with each student or groups at each school so that you can further understand what's going on.
Do you have any more rebuttal? Next question. Do you feel that the current system appropriately incorporates the arts? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
I feel like the current system tries to incorporate the arts. However, I've noticed in my school that our theater programs and our music programs are quite small compared to other programs in the school. And I'm not sure the exact solution to that, but I do believe that we should encourage students to pursue the arts and encourage and make sure that they know that pursuing the arts is not a bad thing to do. And also, I think more funding needs to go to the arts in order to incorporate them. I know at Southern, the Music Boosters have a county-funded organization, obviously, has had to buy a lot of the equipment for our music program, and I think that kind of discourages people because they see how much it's struggling. So more funding being allocated to the arts would be beneficial.
Emily?
Like Coleman said, I definitely feel that they try to push it, but in a lot of schools, it's not always pushed because they want students to focus more on school and they want kids to focus more on their GPA, and now it's kind of a stigma now that, oh, if I take this art class or this music class, because they're not all of them are honors, they're afraid that it's going to bring down their GPA for schools, for colleges. So I feel like maybe making more honors class or more arts classes and music classes honors or something that could make kids more desirable for it to help their GPA, and also more funding would be great because I participated in the music program for a long time, and I know when it came time, the stands were all broken, like chairs are broken, the auditorium is very old, and when it comes to plays and things, it's really hard for them to get sets and mics. So definitely adding more funding.
Josie?
I would definitely agree that right now the whole movement is towards STEM, and I feel like our community focuses way too much on pushing students to take STEM classes and STEM-related activities that we don't focus so much on the arts. And I know we do have the PVA program at several schools, but I think we should really be opening students up to the opportunity into those PVA programs, and also advocating for more funding for those different programs at schools so that they can, as Emily said, take those art classes that they want and participate in those after-school art activities.
Any rebuttal? Okay, next question. What does the ideal Anne Arundel County student look like? Josie will be answering first.
Again, I think the real ideal Anne Arundel County student is one that can pursue their passions while also realizing that they're a global citizen and that the world is a lot bigger than just Anne Arundel County. Because I feel like students need to realize that their voice and their impact does matter, and that no matter what they pursue, they can be the best that they can at that job or that career or that college. That no matter what they put their mind to, that it actually matters and that they can achieve it. And once they realize that the world is bigger than just themselves, they become productive citizens that actually try to improve the community around them. And I think that's what an ideal Anne Arundel County student and what we are achieving to teach our students is what? It's that they're not just their GPA and their scores on their tests, they're a morally valued person.
Coleman?
I believe that the ideal Anne Arundel County student is one who's well-rounded and involved in many activities at school, as well as enjoys school and focuses on school. But I also believe that an ideal Anne Arundel County student, rather than focus on resume building when it comes to involvement and when it comes to community service, that student is actually motivated just for the benefit of themselves and for the benefit of the community to participate in those service activities.
Emily?
I feel like the ideal student is a student who, like they both have said, someone who likes to do what they want, someone who's not taking 6 APs their senior year because they felt like they're pushed to, a student who wants to be at the school, who wants to participate in so many activities, and also make sure that they want to keep their grades up and they want to keep learning and keep pushing themselves, but also, like Coleman said, wants to help out in the community and likes to what they do in the community, that they're not forced by their parents or by the school that says they have to do this, and sports or participating in sports or other activities that make them happy. So I feel like it would be just a student that's happy with what they're doing at the time and happy to be where they are.
Do we have any rebuttal?
Sorry, you can go. I think also students need to realize that our community is so diverse that high school diploma to one student means the world to the student, whereas a 4.5 GPA to one student is the best that they can be. I feel like students need to realize that diversity is something you should appreciate rather than tolerate, as one says.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
Another quality of the ideal AACPS student is kindness and acceptance of all other students, because if one student is tolerant and one student is acceptant, then he or she will inspire other students to be that way. And another quality would be not being afraid to stand up to bullying in our schools.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
I definitely agree with the fact that all students should be tolerant, and I feel like a good student does not put anyone down because of a grade they got or because of what classes they're in. They help them feel like they're welcome, and they help them feel like they can do what they love, and they push themselves even if they're not in AP or honors classes, that's how they can make themselves successful no matter what their future is.
Next question. If all the adult members of the board agree on something and you do not, what will you do? Emily will be answering first.
I definitely, no matter if the whole group agrees, I would definitely stick with my opinion. I feel like I'm up here to represent the school, and if I feel that it would be more beneficial for the school for schools and students to not pass that, then I would definitely stand my ground. That I'm the one, I feel like the student member of the board is the one in the schools, the one who sees what's actually happening, and compared to all the adults, it would feel like if they're trying to pass something and you feel that this would just not help at all in the school, definitely stand your ground and don't give in to them. Make sure you are your voice, you have the influence, and you have the power.
Josie.
So this actually happened a couple years ago to one of our student members of the board. They were the swing vote, actually, between two different policies. And what she did, and what I would do similarly, is realize the argument of both sides and then proceed there, realizing that you represent everybody in Anne Arundel County, being a little redundant on that. But also, I had another similar experience on the School Board Appointment Commission, where a lot of members voted one way, but me with like one other person voted one way, and I stood my ground because I thought personally that that certain member would be who we wanted on the board, and I continued to voice my opinion and explain why I thought that. So I think realizing that even though you are a student, that your vote and voice is equal to them, and voicing what you think is the best with your experience and your understanding of the community is what you need to realize.
Coleman.
If I was a student member of the board and all the other board members held a different opinion or voted differently than I did, before I solidified my opinion, I would analyze all of their arguments and consult with them about their reasoning behind their decision, because I'm always open to other people's sides, and I often change my opinion on a subject the more information I get about that subject. So I would be inclined initially to hold my ground and keep my opinion, but I would also consult with the other board members and see why they made the decision that they did, and potentially change my position accordingly.
Do we have any rebuttal?
I definitely agree that you should hear both sides, and maybe it could persuade you to change, but I feel like as an adult, not a young adult, not an adult with the other adults on the board, that it would be better for you to stick your ground and not be persuaded because you're the kid of the group, you're the younger one, that you need to stand your ground and act like you are an adult, because you should be considered an adult. They shouldn't try to persuade you because you're not.
Do we have any more rebuttal? All right, next question. If you could recommend any book to us, what would it be? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
You said a book?
Any book.
If I could recommend any book, I would recommend John Howard Griffin's Black Like Me. In that book, Griffin outlines important advice about staying silent when there are issues in your society. And he says that the book is about racism in the South, and he says that rather than the blatant racists and the people who were actually making racist remarks, it was actually those who stayed completely silent and didn't hold a position one way or another that perpetuated the racism in the South. And I think that that message that's described throughout the book can be applied to almost any issue facing students and facing anybody in our county today.
Emily?
This is kind of grim, but the book My Sister's Keeper, I feel that she finally, as she was there to give her organs and her body to her sister who had cancer. And so she finally realized that she shouldn't be pushed down by her parents, by the adults, that she has her rights, it's her body, and that it's kind of like being on the student member of the board, that she had the right to fight back, or she had the right to her own opinion, even though the adults felt that she should be doing one thing, that she should, and show that she had the ability and the resources to fight back.
Josie?
I feel like the book, wait, can you repeat the question, actually?
Yeah. If you could recommend any book to us, what would it be?
I feel like the book Winnie the Pooh, because, no, seriously, because if you do research on the book, each character represents a different mental illness, and as the book continues, you realize how that mental illness is dealt with within that Winnie the Pooh community, and I really think that symbolizes how a society is filled with different things that people don't realize and are underlying within our community, and I feel like Anne Arundel County needs to realize that mental illness and mental health within students at each school is very important and should be one of the biggest priorities. And being that it's symbolized throughout a little children's book, I think is really symbolic too, because it represents how it even does affect students. So I think that's really significant.
All right, do we have any rebuttal? All right, next question. If you can cut one part of the budget and move it to something that you feel is underrepresented in the budget, what would you cut and where would you move the money to? Josie will be answering this question first.
So again, I would just go, the first thing I would talk about cutting maybe is the textbooks. And I would give it to either the Head Start or the pre-K, as I mentioned previously, or the Title I grants. Along with teacher salaries, being that that's a really continuing pressing issue. But I continue to see over the last 15, 16, 17, 18, and now 19, that Title I programs continue to get cut, and I think that it really shouldn't. I think those are significant schools that need that funding, and that it should be one of the biggest priorities with our funding besides teacher salaries.
Coleman?
Like I mentioned before, I believe that we could take funding away from textbooks as well as standardized testing and the process involved with that in our schools. And I think that the money that is taken from that should be funneled into programs for our special ed students as well as our English language learner students. I know in the 2019 fiscal year budget, a lot of money and positions have already been allocated to English language learner students. And as a student member of the board, I would fully support that allocation. Because I believe that, well, in the past 6 years, our ELL population has grown by 40% in AACPS. So obviously that is a big issue and something that definitely needs attention and funding. And I believe those students also need social support.
Emily?
I feel like it would be also taken out of standardized testing and the process. And like Coleman said, go to the more English language department to help kids who aren't 100% able to speak English or hard to understand, and definitely put towards the teachers and definitely to arts programs or more programs that can help the kids explore more than just school and activities that can break up their days from going from English to math to science, maybe and put more in place more art classes or more I know we have a film class at our school, or more fun electives that could help break up a really stressful day.
Do we have any rebuttal?
I would also put that money towards more of the new construction budget, because not only does this new construction that's going on in our community help really reduce class sizes, but it also keeps up to date with meeting the needs of disabled students within our school system, because a lot of the schools don't have accommodations for those students, and it makes them very difficult to move throughout the day and just get from one place to another. And I think that we need to accommodate for those students because they're a valued member of our community as well.
Do we have any more rebuttal? All right, next question. What is your favorite meme or Vine? Emily will be answering first.
Oh gosh.
I know.
I had to think about this. I think it's probably, my favorite Vine is probably the one that has like the guy walking down the road and it says, sign says, road work, and then he goes, I sure hope it do. Every time I think of Vine, like, it cracks me up. I think of that one, and I know at work, I work in West Marine in my community, and my one friend works with me, and it got really slow over the winter, so we had the idea of recreating vines. And so we had this whole list, and every time I thought of it, like, the one thing I thought of was that vine, because it was just so funny.
All right, Josie.
That's actually my favorite too. But my second favorite, I would have to say, is probably the one where the girl's in like the bathtub and she's like washing me in my clothes. I think that's really funny.
Okay, Coleman.
I'm trying to think. I'm kind of blanking on all my favorite vines, but I have names of viners that I like: Nick Coletti and Evan Breen, and also Cody Coe. But one like current meme that I really like is the Krusty Krab in the chum bucket, and people will put like something that they like on the Krusty Krab and then something that they don't like on the chum bucket. But usually the responses of people disagreeing, or people will send back a picture of the chum bucket with a huge line in front of it, which I find really funny.
All right, do we have any rebuttal?
I do.
Okay.
Another one of my favorite vines is the one where the guy's standing up and they're in like the hot tub down below, and it's like 5 guys chilling in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay. I don't know why. That one just kills me. Just like the way he says it just kills me.
All right, do we have any more rebuttal? All right, next question. What is one way you have built consensus, and how has it helped you? Define consensus. All right, Coleman, you'll be answering first.
As I mentioned earlier, well, first of all, one way that I have built consensus in the past is pretty obvious, but it's just consulting opinions from multiple people and getting all sides of an issue. But I believe that social media is a great way to get a consensus through polls, and also through just you can, on social media, especially on Twitter, you can encourage people to contact you. Like I could send out a tweet and ask people to give me their opinions, and I think that that would be an effective way to get a consensus on any issue.
Emily.
I definitely feel like social media would be a big help, but because you're not always at every school, and definitely going to schools face to face and making sure you talk to those students and get their opinion directly, and it's not just like because they're persuaded because there's maybe comments on Twitter, they don't want to be that odd one out that says something different. So definitely getting their opinion face to face and seeing what the community as a whole would want.
Josie.
We have to realize that also social media is really predominantly for students, that a lot of adults don't have it, and there's even students in our community that do not have access to internet and Wi-Fi, so they do not have social media. So although social media is really important for some students, you also have to realize that you have to go to these schools and talk to these people. And I would say that my ability and what I've learned through CRASC with building consensus with very diverse groups, such as the Board of Education, with very diverse problems that face our school system, I really feel like the biggest thing that you can do is be a listener. You can go to different town hall meetings, you can have different meetings, you can go to different schools, and you really need to listen to what is going on at each school so that you can really understand and fully grasp where you need to go from there and what you need to bring to the board and tell them.
Do we have any rebuttal?
I just want to clarify that when I say that I want to use social media, I would use social media like polls just to get a general idea about an issue. But in order to get a solid consensus, I would like to visit all different schools, visit their SGAs, visit their different clubs, and also talk to their guidance counselors and administrations to gain a real consensus. Also, community groups like SECAC, Special Education Citizens Advisory, consulting with groups like that to get a consensus.
Emily?
I definitely know that, like Josie said, talking to a wide variety of students, because when I'm in SGA, when I have to talk to people to get a consensus, I think directly to my friends and the people who are in my classes, and I have now began to think I have to go to everyone, I have to talk to everyone, a diverse group of people. I like Coleman said, talk to many different clubs and many different people, not just the SGA, not just my friends or class officers, to get a wide variety of what they all feel.
Josie, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. Well, I would also talk to groups like TAC and CCAC and the AEL and everything. You also have to realize that I would also talk to our community partners and our investors in our school system to realize what their standpoint and their future projections of their companies or different technological systems are, so that we can make sure that our school system is equipped with those different investments, because our community really grows with those community partners, and we have a lot of internships and opportunities for students because of our partners.
All right, next question. How does class size impact education of students in the AACPS? Josie, you'll be answering first.
I know that class size is a huge issue that has been ongoing, and I know that we're currently trying to increase increase different classrooms, the sizes of them, the desks, and also build different high schools and new constructions with different buildings to try to alleviate that. I know it's a huge problem because when you are in a class full of 40 kids, you cannot learn, which is why I know some students go to different magnet programs and different charter schools to try to reduce their class sizes. So I think by not only opening up the opportunities at these different programs, but also continuing to fund different new construction programs will really try to alleviate class sizes, because it is proven that you cannot have more than 20 kids in a classroom in order for it to be a productive learning environment.
Coleman?
Yeah, so I take AP Music Theory at Southern High School, and that's a very unpopular class. So there are only 6 students in that class, and I find that it's the easiest for me to learn, as well as French class. I only have 12 students, and in both of those classes I feel like I have the most attention from the teacher, and so do other students, and in turn those students are more engaged in class and don't tend to remove themselves from what the teacher is teaching. So I definitely will advocate for lower class size, and the way to achieve that, like Josie said, is through new construction and also new programs that emphasize lower class size.
Emily?
I know, coming from a smaller school like Southern, where we're underpopulation, it's a lot easier for us to have connections with teachers, and our classes aren't always as big. I know when I went to Arundel for the CRAS General Assembly, we were sitting in a classroom in Arundel, and it was a very small classroom with a lot of desks in it, and I could just tell that the classroom would be hard to focus in without all those desks filled. So I would like to talk to other students and other schools to see how because I'm not in a school like Severna Park or Arundel that has a lot more kids. So I definitely feel that class sizes should be smaller, because it is a lot easier to learn. When I know I had a few people absent due to spring break, and the class was a lot easier to understand, and the teacher talked and connect with us more. And so definitely by creating, like they said, new constructions and new programs would definitely help disperse the kids better and have smaller classes.
Any rebuttal?
I also know that strategic scheduling is also one way that we can try to alleviate schedule or class sizes. When you strategically schedule, you put a certain amount of kids into one class and then into another class. And I know a lot of schools are trying to do that, so I would continue to advocate for schools trying to do that.
Do we have any more rebuttals? All right, next question. Some students volunteer or get involved in the community service activities for the sole purpose of looking good for college. But what can be done to encourage more community involvement and create volunteer opportunities unrelated to college? Emily will be answering first.
Definitely having students participate and not be forced to do one thing. They can sign up for something that they're very interested in. I know a lot of my friends go on mission trips, and my one friend goes to North Carolina every year because she's not forced to. She really likes doing it, and that's what her passion is, going to help them. And so having students not being forced to go do one thing that they're not really interested in and don't feel like they want to help out, that means they'll probably won't do a great job at it, and they'll feel like they shouldn't be there and they won't want to be there. They'll slack off. So definitely having the opportunity for students to sign up for different a wide variety of different community service opportunities and volunteer opportunities would benefit all students.
Josie?
So that's one thing I know Anne Arundel County has been trying to do, is to get students involved within our community and explore different options and opportunities. But one thing, again, it all goes back to equity. One of the biggest problems that students do not do this is because there's a lack of transportation, a lack of actual resources at these schools, and then a lack of investment and passion. So one thing that I would advocate for is these transportations, because I know at different schools they don't have necessarily activity buses or just plain transportation at all. And then also it's really that we need to push students not force them to do these, but make sure that they are aware of the actual resources and continue to provide these at diverse schools, especially Title I schools where these resources aren't necessarily open to every single student. We really need to target those specific schools is what I believe, especially with the lack of funding with them. I think we need to put more money into them, actually.
Coleman?
I think it's important to increase the availability of different opportunities for service and community activities. And I think one way to achieve that, to increase the availability, is to consult with with things like the BCAB that we have at Southern, which is Business Community Advisory Board. I would imagine that they have those around the county. And if the Business Community Advisory Board developed a better relationship with SGAs and class officers of schools, they could make more available different opportunities for student service. Also, I think that if we encourage students to be motivated to do this service just for their benefit and for the benefit of the community, it would result in a more full-hearted effort from those students and a higher work ethic in their activities.
Do we have any rebuttal?
I think we need to personally, the people we need to target are the ones that aren't necessarily the high flyers, the high achievers, because once we pull the students that don't feel like they belong in the schools, once we give them the passion and give them these opportunities, that's when Anne Arundel County becomes successful, because we empower the lower students that don't feel like they actually belong. Once we empower them and teach them that their voice actually matters and that they can actually impact their communities, I feel like that's when we begin to see better scores, better everything.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
Yeah, I agree with what Josie said. I normally feel like if there's a big field trip or a community service project in our school, it's not meaningful, but it's more targeted to the honors and AP kids, because they feel like they're the higher kids, the medium and higher kids, and that the lower kids not necessarily wouldn't participate, but they might not be as interested. So I definitely feel like putting it out for all of the students and pushing for all the students to join, not just the AP and honors students.
Any more rebuttal?
A lot of students may not do well in school because they don't see school as something that's important to them. They may not want to go to college. So I think that if we increase the availability, as I was saying before, of programs that maybe target certain students' interests that are not academic, like certain students that want to become mechanics or construction workers, and have volunteer activities related to that, that would help increase student involvement.
All right, next question. What experience working with adults do you have that ensures that you will not feel pressured into making decisions? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
So I've worked with adults in every kind of leadership or honor society that I've been in the past. So freshman year I was in the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, and there were different adult advisors, and through that I was able to interact with those adult advisors and tell them what I felt like I needed to do and cooperate with them. And similarly in different service activities that I've done, there have always been adult leaders, but I've never been in a position where adults and students are equal, but I'm very excited, and I think that it would be a great opportunity for me.
Emily?
Throughout the past years, I've never really been I've never really been scared of having a conversation or interacting with adults. I've always felt comfortable with that. And this year I've been working with one of my teachers, Ms. Marnevich, and she is in charge of our design class, and she works with a lot of community members, and I've met with a lot of adults, and I've had conversations with them, and I never feel like I'm pressured to agree with them. I always put my opinion out there, and having more conversations with community businessmen and women who work with the schools in general definitely helps, and that I would not feel pressured just because I'm the only one who doesn't agree, or the adults want me to do what they feel that is right. I feel like I can stand up for myself and not have an issue speaking with them or disagreeing with them.
Josie?
So I've served on several school committees where I've had to interact with adults, whether it be the calendar committee or just deciding the future proceedings of Anne Arundel County. And I've also served on the School Board Appointment Commission, as I said before, where I did have that full equal right on the future board members that we were electing and appointing with adults. So it actually gave me a great opportunity to voice my opinion and actually influence the votes of those adults as they listened to what I had to say, I listened to what they had to say, and we all came to a consensus on the next Board of Education member we were appointing. I've had a lot of experience working with adults, and I think it's really interesting because you realize that not only do they respect your opinion, but you respect theirs, and it's just nice working with them, I think.
And your rebuttal? Yes.
I definitely agree that a lot of adults will respect your opinion. They feel that you have gotten this far, or you're meeting with them, you've set up these things, that they are going to respect you, and they're going to realize that you're here for a reason. You're not just here to be this younger person on the board. You're here for a reason. You're here to be the voice, and that they should treat you and they should value your opinion just like they would for their other fellow colleagues.
Any more rebuttal?
I think on the topic of working with adults, I think that's what students need in each school, is to have a relationship with their teacher, with their counselor, with their school administrator, so that they can create and feel welcome in that environment. It all goes back to mental health and equity within our schools. Once students feel welcome and engaged in the classroom because they have that relationship with that adult, that's what creates this better learning environment, and that Anne Arundel County is trying to achieve.
Any more rebuttal? Next question. How will you address students of different achievement levels? Josie will be answering first.
So that's one thing that Krask has constantly been advocating for in the past couple years, that students are diverse in our community, and that, again, that high school diploma is amazing to one student, whereas that 4.5 GPA is what that student needs to achieve in order to feel successful. So one thing that we have been doing, I know, is I know Anne Arundel County does have a bunch of equity and accelerated achievement and family and community involvement programs. By making students realize that we are diverse, I think it opens them up to really growing as leaders themselves. And I feel like we need to create that diverse learning environment so that students do realize that there are different achievement gaps, because that's what creates this welcoming environment.
Coleman?
I think I mentioned this earlier, but for students who are maybe low achieving in school, there are plenty of incentives for those students to even put in minimum effort. But I think for students who are kind of in the middle, and even for the high achieving students, there aren't very many incentives. So I think to increase the equality between different students, we need to make incentives for all levels of students, and also encourage all students to succeed academically.
Emily?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How will you address students of different achievement levels?
So I'm in I'm AP in honors classes, and I don't really interact with kids that aren't normally, but definitely going into schools and seeing that you have these kids who are in the AP and honors classes, and they kind of have their path, and they kind of know how to push themselves and know where to go. Definitely trying to have ways put in place that these students who are in the middle and the low definitely have goals to achieve, or ways that make them feel like they can push themselves and have a path. It's not like I'm in a standard class, I'm not going to be able to make it to this honors class. Have more teachers and more administrators push them to realize you have potential, and you're welcomed here, that you all should be able to have the same opportunities no matter what classes you are, as long as you feel you can push yourself.
Do we have any rebuttal?
You can go first.
So to address students of different achievement levels, I think that we need to, especially as a student member of the board, not neglect any student's opinion based on what they're how they achieve in school, because that's not necessarily a reflection of that student's qualifications to have an opinion on any issue.
Josie?
As student member of the board, I also say that it goes all back to equity, and that different students need different things in order to be successful and achieve. I wouldn't call students lower achievers. I would just say that their passions don't align with what Anne Arundel County is currently providing them, which is why I would advocate for more expansion of different programs to find that student's passion, to empower them to stay engaged in the learning environment that they are given.
Is there any more rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay.
I also agree with the fact that we should listen. No student's opinion is wrong, and that everyone, if they really have a voice and they really feel like there needs to be change, maybe if they're really into Cat South because they're not really into school, and that they feel that it has to have more funding or there has to be more this or that, I definitely feel like they could talk to a student member of the board and definitely get their voices heard, no matter what classes they're in or what level they feel they are.
Next question. How will you go about reaching out to your constituents? Emily will be answering this first.
I'm definitely going to schools and seeing how they live, because where I live is a lot different where people in Savannah Park live, people in North County live, and definitely see how their lives are, and definitely try to connect with them on a personal level and talk to them face to face to see the differences and the changes from one school to another, and see that, like Josie says, we're all diverse, and see how I can work with each school and realize that every school needs something different, and that no one should be above each other, but that sometimes you have to think about we're all not the same.
Josie?
So I would also visit schools regularly, but I also have to remember that I represent more than just the students. So what I would do is set up regular town hall meetings at local areas all around Anne Arundel County, so that I can talk to the parents and then talk to the teachers as well. Because not only I realize that there is TAC, but I really feel like talking one-on-one with teachers is very important, as well as parents, because parents, their involvement is what makes the student also want to go to school, is what also makes the student feel like they are being successful. And I feel like a lot of schools have problems with parent involvement, so as student member of the board, I would really work to make sure that parents realize that their kids' education is very important and should be their priority as well, and that just show them different ways that they can be involved, whether it be with PTA or just regularly checking in on their student. So by having these town hall meetings, I would be able to talk to different constituents, as well as going to our community partners, because I feel like talking to them about their future investments and their current investments is very, very prominent.
Coleman?
When I've talked to my friends from other schools, I've noticed that they have totally different experiences, even though we're all in the same county. Even students at my school who take different classes or are in a different grade than me have a completely different experience, and different experiences equates to different opinions of students. So, and like Josie said, teachers are also very important. I think teachers are one of our, or if not the most vital resource of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. So in order to reach all constituents, that includes teachers, students, members of the community, parents, I would need to organize meetings with all different groups with representatives from each of those categories: parents, teachers, students.
Do we have any rebuttal? Yes.
I definitely agree that hearing from the teachers, because they're the ones who see what the students are doing and see how it's working, and definitely because all students have different opinions, and the teachers could say that this program isn't working, and for us as teachers we need this resources or this, because this can benefit us as well as the students, and if we get more things to help us, then that could help us improve the students' lives and their grades and their futures.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
So talking to our constituents, one group that I think we are very lacking in and that I really want to pull in is all these mental health and crisis hotline centers in our school community. I feel like students don't know enough about them and don't know that they have a lot of access to mental health resources and these hotlines that they can regularly talk to get help if they need to. Mental health is a growing problem in our community, and I feel like if I go and talk to these constituents and these partners in our community, that it would really expand our current resources.
Do we have any more rebuttal?
So our minority students are also an increasing number in the demographics of AACPS and represent a larger number of constituents than ever before. So I believe a student member of the board must consult with minorities and minority groups in our schools to get their opinions, and not assume the needs of those students, but actually get opinions from those students and teachers involved with those students.
Next question. What do you plan to do if SMOB does not work out? Coleman, you'll be answering first.
I've put a lot of thought into this, and just this experience of attempting to be SMOB has already changed me. But if I do not become SMOB, I plan on becoming involved with CRASC and other student leadership in the county, and also organizing different events in my school, hopefully increasing my role as SGA president, increasing my role in all the other activities that I do. But yeah, especially joining CRASC and focusing on issues facing students in AACPS.
Emily?
If this does not work out, I definitely will be more in with CRASC and definitely continue with SGA and my leadership in the school. I would love to do internships in DC or for future jobs. I know the one teacher asked me to intern for her business, and she does business throughout the school. And then also definitely doing the PAGE program in Annapolis I'm really interested in that. So if this does not work out, that would also be another leadership. And then also just doing community service and helping out throughout the community to make sure I'm helping out any way I can.
Josie?
Well, I just want to say I love hearing students say they want to join CRASC. But if this doesn't work out, I would definitely say I would continue on with my platform of mental health and school safety and everything, because as president, I do have influence, and I would definitely stay involved with CRASC next year so that I can continue with my platform and continue empowering students, empowering minorities, teaching equity, and just embracing diversity in our community. I do realize that SMOB has the power in this play, but I would definitely hope to continue with my passion in CRASC.
All right, do we have any rebuttal? All right, next question. As SMOB, you'll have to get to and from the Board of Education quite often. Will you have reliable means of transportation to attend all mandatory SMOB events? Josie will be answering first.
Yes.
Okay. Coleman.
Yes, I will have reliable means. I have a driver's license and I have a car to drive.
All right. Emily.
Yes, I also have a car and a driver's license, and all my coaches are pretty lenient with schedules, and they'd be pretty impressed that I would be on student member of the board.
Awesome. All right. Do we have any rebuttal?
I was just going to add that I would make student member of the board my priority, so the physical means of transportation is there, as well as the mental motivation, like I said, to make it my priority.
All right. Do we have any more rebuttal? All right, next question. Tell us one thing you admire about the other candidates. Yes, Coleman will be answering first.
So when I went to the CRASC General Assembly at Arundel, which is where I found out about the student member of the board position, Josie was the leader of that, and she was running it. And my friend Matt and I actually thought that Josie was an adult. Not that she necessarily.
I'm like 5'1".
Not that she necessarily looks like an adult, but the way that she was conducting herself and the role that she was taking with that General Assembly just made her seem like an adult and a leader. So I admire her involvement with CRASC throughout the years, and I admire her ability to take leadership.
Now, Emily.
I definitely, the same thing with Josie when we were at that General Assembly, my one teacher and I, she looked at me and she goes, I have never seen a student who has been so well-spoken and so well-organized when there's a bunch of kids chaotically running around. And I've known Coleman since we were in kindergarten, and throughout the time I've known him, he's always been a leader, and he's always definitely stood his ground.
Josie?
I just want to say thank you. You guys are so nice. But I would definitely say the one thing I admire is you guys' school involvement. Just like hearing you guys talk about all these SGA things you do within your school really just brings back my passion for wanting to empower other students. And I think it's really brave of you guys to come out here and speak on stage and everything in front of TV too as well. So I really admire you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
Do we have any rebuttal? All right.
Connor, you're awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. That was the final question. Thank you for attending or viewing the 2018-19 Student Member of the Board debate for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Best of luck to all three candidates on the April 19th elections. Good night and have a fantastic spring break.
Thank you.
Great, guys. Here, push this button.
So those are little things that I didn't know about. But
how'd you figure that out? So you cut them and they were probably
we
green.
got a complaint from a customer.
Oh, really?
No, we were starting to send. No. We had just started harvesting, and we were very small at that point. And they said, hey, I think you cut this too early. And so we started doing some more research. But talking about research, it's funny because when we renovated the farmhouse upstairs, I found my great grandfather's farming notes, and he took meticulous notes from 32 all the way until 46. And so it's what he planted, how much fertilizer he used, the market price when he finally harvested, what the yields were, and things like that. Funny enough, I couldn't find butternut in that book, though.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
So is he growing anything different than you are? I mean, I'm sure he is because times have changed. But
Yeah.
what was his primary crop?
So he grew a lot of tomatoes. Mm-hmm. He grew, I want to say, lima beans, definitely big into sweet potatoes, which we're trying this year. What we typically do on the farm is we get an idea and we say, hey, this might be really good for us to grow. Then the research starts, then the procuring the seeds starts, and it's a big process. It can take a year to get what started as an idea into the ground and finally harvested. I mean, It's a big undertaking. And then you find these little things like cutting the butternut at the right time. At the end of that cycle, that's pretty frustrating, but there's a lot of good research out there. We work with Maryland Department of Ag. They have a guidebook and tells you a lot of good things about storing, handling, harvesting. We're still working, and we're always looking for new things.
Good. I mean, I think it's a class operation. I mean, we love the visits.
Thank you.
And we love the videos, and we love the produce.
Great.
So I really think the best thing that could have happened for Anne Arundel County Public School students is our partnership and that we're able to buy from you. So
absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break, but that was tons about farming. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit more about the things we do with marketing.
Sure.
And what else we provide for our students here in Anne Arundel County. Anne Arundel County. Anne Arundel County. Anne Arundel County.